Morning, everyone. I'm going to try a Josh Garrels song for you called Farther Along. Farther along, we'll know all about it. Farther along, we'll understand why. So cheer up, my brothers, live in the sunshine. We'll understand this all by and by. Tempted and tried, I wonder why the good man dies, the bad man thrives, and Jesus cries because he loves them both. We're all castaways in need of rope, hanging on by the last threads of our hope. In the house of mirrors full of smoke, confusion, illusions I've seen. Where did I go wrong? I sang its song to every chorus of the song that the devil wrote, like a piper at the gate, leading mice and men down to their fates. But some will courageously escape the seductive voice with a heart of faith, while walking that line back home. So much more to life than we've been told. It's full of beauty that will unfold and shine like you struck gold, my wayward son. That dead weight burden weighs a ton. Go down to the river, let it run, wash away all the thing you've done. Forgiveness, alright. Farther along, we'll know all about it. Farther along, we'll understand why. So cheer up, my brother, live in the sunshine. We'll understand this all by and by. Still I get hard pressed on every side, between the rock and the compromise, like the truth and a pack of lies, fighting for my soul. I got no place left to go, 'cause I got changed, but I've been shown more glory than the world has known. It keeps me rambling on, skipping like a calf loose from its stall. I'm free to love once and for all, and even when I fall, I'll get back up for the joy that overflows my cup. Heaven filled me with more than enough, broke down my levees and my bluffs, let the flood wash me. And one day the sky rolls back on us, some rejoice and the others fuss, 'cause every knee must bow and tongue confess that the Son of God is forever blessed. His is the kingdom with a guess, so put on your voice up to the test. Sing, Lord, come soon. Farther along, we'll know all about it. Farther along, we'll understand why. So cheer up, my brothers, live in the sunshine. We'll understand this all by and by. Father alone. All right, folks, there's a little song for you that is live from my studio, but we have, well, I'm going to try and cue up something right now, and it's a special song all the way from Winnipeg, and while I'm talking to you, I'm trying to get things working here, so I may be a bit distracted. This is a see, I can't find it here. This is a song that Janelle Arnold, and you might know her from playing bass with us in the band. And she, oh, here we go. I think I found it here. She wrote a song. I don't know when. I'm assuming that over the past couple of weeks. She was studying at the University in Waterloo, and when COVID hit, she headed back to Winnipeg to her family, and she's been trying to work on school and work on that from afar. So she sent me a song that she'd written, and it's called Focus, and it's quite apropos because it just so happened that this is what the sort of topic that Brad was going to be discussing this week was, you know, what's it feel like these days, and how do we focus, and how do we get back on track, those sorts of things. So she was some great lyrics here about, you know, what are you trying to do? You're trying to finish essays and trying to get things done from afar, and it's so surreal. So I'm going to play that video here, and if I can, I'm going to try and come in and play along, but the technology might not be friendly to me this morning, but at least we're going to hear from Janelle, so let me try and cue that up now.
I could focus for a week, I'm sure I'd figure out what I believe about Jesus and humanity, music and philosophy. But I just can't. If I could focus for a day, I'm sure I'd finish all my school essays, and I'd feel so accomplished, so wonderful to be finished. But I just can't. What am I afraid to find if I close my eyes? What currents are beneath these waves, and what will have to change with the tides? If I could focus for 5 minutes, I'm sure I'd realize that this is foolish. But I still haven't hit my limit, and I don't want life without you in it. No, I don't want to think about that. Let me focus on you. What am I afraid to find if I close my eyes? What currents are beneath these waves, and what will have to change with the tides?
Hey.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Thanks, Dave, for that. That was, and thanks, Janelle, for that song. That was absolutely lovely. And thanks, Dave, for pulling all that together. Awesome. I certainly resonated with that song. I mean, my goodness, this is actually now the 11th Sunday we've been doing this online thing. And I realized that for me, that marks the longest time in 15 years I haven't spoken to a live crowd. This is a bit odd, but I resonated with Janelle's song a lot because, like her, I think since COVID hit, it feels hard to concentrate on any task, right? I mean, when COVID hit, for me, it felt like everything kind of got put on hold. Everything paused in my life. And perhaps I'm not alone, but 11 weeks ago, I had these plans and these projects that I was working on, and I was very excited about them. But 11 weeks ago, everything halted. And that was fine. I mean, there are seasons of life of liminal space, which we've talked about, a time for things to be put on hold. But almost 3 months into this, new normals and new routines seem to be setting in. And there's a part of me that's concerned about living in a new season where everything feels permanently on pause. His name was Mr. Limmer. He was my principal in elementary school. And there's no other way to put it. He was a mean man. And he had his things he liked to do. He was always walking the halls. Of course, I went to a Christian school growing up that was very strict. And he would walk the halls with his keys clanking beside him. And if your shirt was untucked, if you were standing at a line, he had this thing with his knuckle. He would hit you right in the chest with his knuckle. Get back into line or tuck in your shirt. And one of the things I remember about Mr. Limmer, the principal, the most was he had a line that he loved to say over and over again. At chapels, anytime he had a listening ear, he would love to say this line: aim at nothing and you're bound to hit it. And he would say that over and over. I had no clue what he meant, but I remember, of course, one incident where I had to go to the principal's office. My friend Sean and I had been to the mall. Does anyone remember the It store in the Guelph Mall? What was that? Conestoga Mall? It was called the It store. And you could buy all these crazy things, stink bombs, itching powder, like all these crazy things you could never get anymore. And Sean and I picked up some itching powder, and we had some plans for this itching powder. We put it, a friend had broke his arm. We put it down his cast. That was a rather mean thing to do, but we were having a great time being little hooligans. And our next victim was going to be a friend of ours, and we were about to do a typing test. And so right as the teacher was about to say, okay, now go on your typing test, we dumped the itching powder down his back and then giggled to ourselves as he itched all throughout his typing test. But we got caught, and we got sent straight to the principal's office. And there was Mr. Limmer sitting across from us with his knuckle right in our chest, right in our chest. And he says, well, boys, I tell you, you've aimed for nothing and you've certainly hit it. Again, I didn't know what he was talking about, but sure enough, Sean and I got the strap. He had this like weird little leather paddle thing. Man, did it hurt. 5 slaps on the hand right there. And again, as we left the office, we were young, we're crying at this point. He reminded us, aim at nothing, boys, and you're bound to hit it. And quite frankly, for my whole elementary school career, I could never make heads or tails of this little proverb that he had. I could never sort of make sense. What did it mean? I had no clue what he was talking about. But despite his rather bizarre speech, his harsh disciplinary tactics, years later, I'm beginning to learn exactly what he means. His lecture sort of echoes still in my head. Without aim or focus in life, we wander aimlessly. And I don't know about you, but that's how I feel a lot these days. And some of that is inescapable, I suppose, but at some point I just get the sense a pivot and recalibration is needed for all of us. One of the more bizarre experiences in Jesus' life, it happens at the top of a mountain. And the short of the story is this: it's called the Transfiguration. experience of Jesus. Odd story. The short of it is this. Jesus climbs this mountain with his friends. He meets two dead people on the top of the mountain, Moses and Elijah, and then he leaves the scene glowing. And it's one of those episodes that's hard to get your head around. Like, what was that? But what we do know is that Jesus comes down from the mountain, this mountaintop experience in his life, and he seems to have a very clear aim and purpose. And whatever it is that happened to him on that mountain, it seemed to bring Jesus a sense of resolution. After the experience, he seemed to know exactly what he needed to do. And in the Gospel of Luke in particular, it's really telling. Jesus has this wilderness mountaintop experience. And from that moment on, it's like he's got a radar. It's crystal clear to Jesus, Jerusalem. Everything is about getting to Jerusalem. And so in Luke 9, you have this transfiguration experience. And then notice the progression in Luke 9:51. As the time approached for him to be taken up to heaven, Jesus resolutely set out for Jerusalem. In Luke 13, then Jesus went through the towns and villages, teaching as he made his way to Jerusalem. Luke 17, while he was on his way to Jerusalem. Luke 18, then he took the 12 aside and said to them, behold, we're going up to Jerusalem, and all the things that are written by the prophets concerning the Son of Man will be accomplished. And then again in Luke 19, before he arrives, after he had said this, he went on ahead going up to Jerusalem. And I'm very fascinated by Jesus' wilderness experiences. And when you follow his movements through them, you really get this sense that Jesus has an orientation, a compass that's guiding him. He's oriented his whole life around a particular mission, and it's only going to happen by getting to Jerusalem. And there comes a point for him where this singular vision is what guides all of his decision-making. It becomes his navigation point in life. And in Luke in particular, Jesus always seems aware of the bigger picture. He's mindful of everything that he is doing and what it's pointing to. But again, being completely honest, this has been one of the things, right, that's made this quarantine life so difficult. I don't know about you, but I feel like a lot of days I'm in this haze, in this maze, and I've found it really easy lately to lose the plot line or any kind of specific focus in life. And this is what intrigues me about Luke's version of Jesus' story. In between the parables and the teachings and the miracles, all these chaotic things and expectations on Jesus, you get the sense from Luke that Jesus always was mindful, always aware of where he was heading and what he was called to. For me, that's disappeared over the last 11 weeks. Things feel blurry, and in that, it's really hard to focus. Here's a great illustration, metaphor of what I'm talking about. If you've ever been to a public restroom, my goodness, you know how disgusting they can be. And my experience tells me men can be incredibly careless when it comes to, how shall I say it, aiming properly at a urinal or toilet, especially in public restrooms, because everyone knows, right, you don't have to clean up after yourself. And it's vile sometimes. I mean, a lot of times you use a public restroom, it's like a walk of shame going through these urinals with puddles underneath them. It's just so disgusting. But this was intriguing when I heard about this. A few years ago, the authorities at the Amsterdam airport, they had this idea to help solve this problem. How do we cut down on the mess in men's bathrooms? They had a genius idea. They etched a small fly in each urinal. And this small plan of theirs was more brilliant than they first realized. You see, the presence of the fly helped men pay attention, and what they found is that men just naturally aimed at it. In fact, the project was so successful, studies done in the airport found that the fly urinal reduced spillage by 80%. 80% less spillage by giving men something to aim for. I got to confess, I'm not sure who did the study, and I'm not sure I want to be the guy who's sort of measuring spillage before and after, but that's a huge decrease in spillage just by giving people something to aim for. Now, of course, I don't want to elaborate too much on this kind of odd metaphor for life, find something to pee at. I don't want to go too far there, but this experiment by the Amsterdam airport, it illustrates something important. I think it's this: our behavior is often a product of our attention. Without something to aim at, as my principal liked to say, we just don't pay attention to what we're doing. When we don't have our Jerusalems as Jesus did, or flies in the urinal, or something to aim at, if we don't have a focus in life that orients our days and our moments, we become very easily distracted, fail to pay attention. But again, right now, that feels so hard. And yet I can't escape it. Virtually every great spiritual writer speaks to exactly this: the importance of paying attention, mindfulness, having the proper orientation in life, the quest to fight against this natural impulse of distraction and self-absorption. And yet my struggle is this: even if we get this, even if mentally we can go, yeah, okay, that makes sense, I need something to focus on, there's an obvious objection, right? It's like, okay, that might sound great, but I can't be focused all the time. Can't keep the big picture in front of me and centered in my life at every single moment. I can't always be aiming for something or thinking about my specific purpose and calling in life. I mean, who has the energy for that? Well, I was intrigued by a man named Roy Baumeister. He's a professor at Florida State University. He's one of my favorite people because he just conducts experiments that I think are fascinating. Late 1990s, he and his colleagues performed several experiments showing that certain types of conscious mental actions appear to draw from the same energy source and gradually diminishes over our days our ability to make smart decisions, stay focused. And so in one of his experiments, what he did is he had subjects, they were forced to eat a pair of radishes instead of these hot, out of the oven chocolate chip cookies that were sitting on the same table. So these cookies are sitting there and they have to eat the radishes. In other experiments, he would subject subjects to funny films or scary films and instruct them to do everything they could to suppress their emotional reactions. And what he found through all these tests is that these subjects were quicker relative to control groups to give up on problem-solving tasks that followed the experiment. And what he sort of hinted at is that previous acts of self-control and self-regulation, eating the radishes or trying to maintain this stoic appearance, it depleted people's mental energy. What Baumeister found was that our brains get tired from exercising self-control. Our brains get tired making too many decisions. And in his experiments, he found that people are more likely to lie, eat poorly, and exhibit poor self-control. Making decisions makes it harder to make more decisions. I've been doing the grocery shopping for my in-laws. My mother-in-law has autoimmune disease, and so it's not generally safe for her to go out grocery shopping. So I've taken that upon myself, a small thing I could do for them. But what a task this has been, because the grocery list that I got this past week from my in-laws was 4 pages, Word document, 4 pages of grocery list items. And they're well organized, but it's been funny to me how certain items on their list are very oddly specific. Like this week, there was 2 Pink Lady apples, which I don't know my apples very well. I've never heard of Pink Lady apples, but sure enough, there they were, 2. Easy enough, I grabbed them. Or other things like Hunt's tomato sauce, the 518 milliliter can. Fair enough, that's easy to find. But other things on their list were just so ridiculously wide open and left me in turmoil, having to make decisions. For instance, they asked for 3 pounds of carrots. Now I'm in the carrots section and there are bags that are 2 pounds. So what do? There's no 1 pound bag. Do I buy 2? That's 4 pounds, not 3 pounds. I'm getting all mixed up here. Do I go to the live carrot section and weigh out 3 pounds? It weighed me down. Or then on their list was chocolate bars. Chocolate bars, that's plural, but what kind of chocolate bars? So I'm standing in the candy aisle looking at hundreds of chocolate bars. I don't know what that means. What kind do you want? Oh, it was exhausting. And then finally on the list was 3 anniversary cards. For who? I have to somehow guess the sentiment you want to express to 3 couples I don't even know. My goodness, I'm looking at the cards. Some are funny. That didn't seem appropriate. Some are overly mushy. I must have read like 30 cards with my mask and gloves on, trying to figure out what my in-laws wanted to express to mystery couples. By the time I got home, I was exhausted. Kristen, of course, starts peppering me with the question, kids camp is canceled. What do you want to do? Or what should we plant in our garden? I'm like, I don't know. I'm just so exhausted. And that's the thing, even having to make small, relatively unimportant decisions, it drains us. It depletes our mental energy. I mean, even if those choices are simple and mundane, chocolate bars, picking out cards, but what Baumeister and others have found is that our brains get tired very quickly from decision-making in the day. And then we get exhausted and get distracted, make poor choices. But what is really fascinating to me is that these studies suggest then that the key to maintaining focus in life is simple. Make fewer decisions. And I mean, this is what I find fascinating about Jesus' experience in life post this mountaintop experience for him. Everything after that moment becomes simple. The decision has already been made. I'm heading to Jerusalem. What are we going to do? Where are we going to go today, Jesus? It doesn't matter. The decision's made. We're heading to Jerusalem. What about all these needs here? No, I'm heading to Jerusalem. And when we eliminate decision-making from our day-to-day lives, it gives us the energy to make good decisions, things that matter. Gives us the energy to stay focused on the things we feel called to and passionate about. A number of years ago, this was such a great article. Michael Lewis wrote an article on President Barack Obama, and it was around how he made decisions as president. And it was just a really interesting read. And in the article, Obama talks about his approach to decisions. And he said this, "You'll see I wear only gray and blue suits. I'm trying to pare down decisions. I don't want to make decisions about what I'm eating or wearing because I have too many other decisions to make." And in the article, Obama goes on to explain that he figures in a day, he probably has 20 to 30 good decisions. And so he only wants to make decisions on things that matter. Other things would have to go. And what he's referring to is what some call decision fatigue, what psychologists call decision fatigue. This is why shopping for groceries can be so exhausting. It's also why studies show that judges hand out harsher decisions in the afternoon. They're fatigued by all the decisions they've made. And what Obama realized is that to manage decision fatigue means finding ways to reduce decisions throughout the day so you can focus on what's really important. He went on to say this, you need to focus your decision-making energy. You need to routinize yourself. You can't be going through the day distracted by trivia. As president, especially, he knew he had many important decisions to make, so he can't waste energy on deciding what to eat or wear. And so at least while he was president, so the story goes, he never decided what to wear, and his breakfasts and lunches were decided for him. Because making too many decisions about mundane details is a waste of a limited resource, our mental energy. And that resonates with me because I don't know, right about now, mental energy seems hard to come by, right? But what I think Obama demonstrates is that instead of wasting mental energy on things you don't consider important, save it for those decisions, those activities, the people in our lives that matter most. But that requires some discipline, focusing ourselves, giving up the right to choose on trivial matters. How do we achieve this? Listen, I'm certainly no expert. I did talk about decision fatigue a few years ago here at Nexus. The funny thing is, some of those decisions I made out of that first talk on decision fatigue, they've stuck. For instance, clothes, right? Like I wear on Sunday mornings jeans and a black t-shirt. That's the uniform, you could say. So it is the rest of the week, most of the time. Or lunch, I also pared down after reading this about Obama. I eat the same lunch every day. A regular salad with Greek feta dressing and 2 hard-boiled eggs. That's lunch every day. It's not spectacular, but it's just, I know what I'm doing. There's no decision there. I mean, those are small things, but they have helped a bit. Because at the end of the day, I don't really care what I'm wearing or what I eat for lunch. So why waste mental energy on deciding? And especially for those of us who are struggling to focus right now, I'm one of them. Perhaps a question we can ask ourselves is, what choices can we get rid of so that we have the mental energy to make the important choices, to focus ourselves? And yet I'm inclined to think you can't just do this by willpower alone. There's a need, I would say, a regular need for what I like to call wilderness recalibration. And I get that might not be easy these days, but I think perhaps now more than ever, we need space and we need time and ways to recalibrate ourselves. I mean, take a look at this, especially given how significant Jesus' experiences in the wilderness were. Take a look at this. I find it fascinating. This is in Mark 1. That evening after sunset, the people brought to Jesus all the sick and demon-possessed. The whole town gathered at the door, and Jesus healed many who had various diseases. He also drove out many demons, but he would not let the demons speak because they knew who he was. Very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up, left the house, and went off to a solitary place where he prayed. Simon and his companions went to look for him, and when they found him, they exclaimed, "Everyone's looking for you." Jesus replied, "Let us go somewhere else, to the nearby villages, so it can preach there also. That is why I have come." So he traveled throughout Galilee, preaching in their synagogues and driving out demons. Man, I find this incredible. Because it's hard when you place yourself in the story to not be sort of overwhelmed by the expectations Jesus was experiencing. Jesus is surrounded by this mob of people, and they've got all kinds of needs and expectations about what he should be doing and who he should be doing it for. And it's like this expectation and request mountain of decisions that are put on his shoulders. And in that, what does Jesus do? He retreats. I think that's so telling, because my impulse is so often the opposite. Expectations mounting, needs mounting, and it's like I've got to try to do everything, cross every T, dot every I, try to be a million different places. Jesus' response, though, to expectations is retreat. He withdraws so that he can check himself, so that he can keep in mind and ensure he's doing what he feels called to. And so he retreats and he makes space for God and makes sure that all the voices of expectations on him aren't pulling him away from the main thing. And when he does this, he's able to make the hard decision. No, it's time to move on. We got to go. But it starts with stealing away and being able to put all the requests and demands and needs in perspective. And this is what reorienting ourselves does. It gives us the opportunity to hear from God, to find our way back to the main things in life. Because here's what I've been thinking. I think here's the reality. To be a human being is to be perpetually distracted. It's not that we're persons who live in habitual spiritual awareness and occasionally we get distracted. No, we are persons who live in habitual distraction and occasionally become spiritually aware. We so easily lose our place in the story. We become anxious, confused, disoriented, and then we end up in that scrolling through social media, binging on Netflix, scrolling through news story after news story. And sure, I get it. The news and social media and Netflix, of course, they have their place. But at the same time, it can become a way where we're just adding distraction and leaving us with no regulating narrative that guides our lives. So I'm convinced now more than ever, we need times of recalibration, combat how perpetually distracted we are. And I'm inclined to think this can't be optional for us. So 3 questions as I close. First, are you in the practice of taking a Sabbath? I know it's a bit of a weird word for some of us. Sabbath, this one day off out of 7. I mean, you can call it what you want, Sabbath or wilderness moments or recalibration, whatever you want, but the task remains the same. In general, 1 day a week where you unplug from everything. All the demands and expectations and requests, all the distractions on our phone, we unplug and leave it. My friend likes to describe Sabbath as pray and play, a day to do nothing but pray and play, contemplate and have fun. Because if we don't unplug and seek Sabbath or wilderness recalibration, I'm inclined to think we can never be focused enough to move towards what is actually important. And in the mess of this strange season of quarantine, it's so easy to lose track of the plot line, to start aiming for nothing. And as my principal would say, when you aim for nothing, you're bound to hit it. Thanks, Mr. Limmer. Second, what is your Jerusalem in life? The place or those things that you feel uniquely called to. What is your fly in the urinal, so to speak? The thing you know you should be aiming for in life. And I think that this probably looks drastically different for each of us, but what is that for you? What are the 1 or 2 things that you wish, you know what, I wish I could keep this on my mind throughout the day. I wish I could focus on this, do a little bit of work on this each and every day. What is that thing? And what's interesting to me is that for Jesus, it took a mountaintop experience for that to happen. And I'm not sure we have access to those these days in terms of going out and hiking as much as we could. But maybe now in this season, it means sort of revisiting mountaintop experiences from the past. Perhaps now more than ever, we need to revisit and contemplate those moments in life where everything seemed clear. When our aim and our focus in life seemed very obvious. I mean, I hope and trust that many of us have had those moments, a mountaintop experience in life where it's like, it's clear. Okay, I know what I should be focusing on. And in the maze of our days in quarantine, maybe it means stealing away and revisiting those moments in our mind, going, you know what, before this seemed clear. I need to get back to that. You know, every year for me, on my birthday, I head up to the Scandinav Spa. Good night. Am I ever worried about what's going to become of that place? I don't know how sticking a bunch of people in a room sweating and breathing hard is going to fly in the COVID area, but it's got me greatly concerned. I'm lamenting what is going to happen to Scandinav Spa, because for me, that place every year was a place of recalibration. It was a place to reorient myself, take stock of life, focus myself for the fall and what was coming. And I found myself, I can get caught in lamenting what I think I have lost with no longer being able to access that place, that I forget what those experiences help make clear for me. And while I might not be able to go there, I still need moments and times where I can recalibrate. And maybe in this quarantine, you feel like you've lost your focus. I mean, maybe you've lost your job and it was like, that was my thing. And so a lot of us can feel very unmoored today. Maybe what we need to do is take that time, steal away, return to the mountain, whatever that experience was for us, whatever it made clear to us. Because what was true before COVID is still true. What was true of us and what we're called to in life is still true now. But to reconnect with that, we need times of Sabbath and recalibration. So the question remains, what's that one thing for you? What is your Jerusalem, your fly? Because COVID's taken many things from us, but it need not take away what we're called to. It may look different. We're going to have to adjust about how we go about our work in life, but we need not lose our specific Jerusalems. It may just mean recalibrating, revisiting the mountaintop experiences like Jesus did. Finally, what does recalibration look like for you right now? See, whatever that Jerusalem thing is for you, I'm convinced, like Jesus, we need those regular times away, reorient, put aside the distractions and the expectations, take stock. No, this is what I'm focused on. This is where I need to go. We need those times away, times when we can leave behind all of that. But we need times of solitude and, dare I even say, wilderness in order to find that. And here's the thing, the way we find that might need to change. I've told many stories. For the past 5 summers, wilderness travels have been, in the summer, a real time of recalibration for me. And again, I'm lamenting the loss of that. I don't know what travel looks like in the immediate future. And so that particular practice is just not going to work for me this year. And that pains me. I'm lamenting that. But while I'm lamenting, I can't just stay there. The location of my recalibration is going to have to change, but the necessity of it doesn't. I'm going to need to adjust and pivot, find recalibration in something else. So as I close, let me say this. This is my challenge for all of us, myself included, especially those of us who are feeling a little bit lost these days. Summer is coming. It's closing in. What do you need to recharge your batteries? Because I think in all of this, some of us are running precariously low on energy, mental energy, calibrating ourselves. How do we find perspective? For Jesus, it meant stealing away. And it might not for us look like it did in the past, but I want to challenge all of us. Find some time for yourself in the wilderness, alone. It could be some woods on the edge of town, a solo camping trip on Crown land, wherever you can find some outside solitude. Or maybe for some of us, we're going to have to make this work from home even. But can we find the time to recalibrate our priorities, our decision making? And some of that's going to mean, you know what? Today, I guess the kids are watching way more TV than they probably should, but we can get weighted down by that. They can only have so much TV time. You know what? Maybe we need to let go of that for a day and take care of ourselves, recalibrate. Our decision making, a time to figure out where Jerusalem is for us, what we're aiming for in life. I would say this, it would probably be good for all of us to do this weekly, monthly, seasonally, but let's start here this week. Will you start to carve out some time for it now? Because remember, aim for nothing and you're bound to hit it. Let me close in prayer this morning and we will go from here. What a beautiful day outside it looks like. Hopefully we can get a little vitamin D in our skin and enjoy the nice weather around us. But thank you for joining us 11 weeks in. I appreciate you tuning in week by week. Thank you for supporting us financially, supporting the work of what Nexus does, for all the interaction that I'm having with everyone. I think of you all fondly every week. My goodness, I miss seeing you all. I hope we can see each other again soon, but thank you for carving out the time in your week to spend and be present with us. I appreciate it. Let's close in prayer. God, thank you for the stories of Jesus where we see such a specific focus and aim. And God, I confess for all of us, that is so hard these days. Feels like we're living in a maze, and days bleed into one another, and it's difficult. And so we pray that by your Spirit, you would prompt us and encourage us to find the time we need to steal away, set aside expectations, demands, requests, and reorient ourselves around where you have called us to work for you and your kingdom. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Go in peace, friends.
If I could focus for a day, I'm sure I'd finish all my school essays. And I'd feel so accomplished, so wonderful to be finished. But I just can't. What am I afraid to find if I close my eyes? What currents are beneath these waves? And what will have to change with the tides? If I could focus for 5 minutes, I'm sure I'd realize that this is foolish. But I still haven't hit my limit, and I don't want life without you in it. No, I don't want to think about that. Let me focus on you. What am I afraid to find if I close my eyes? What currents are beneath these waves? you.